So, welcome again, everyone. You know, it's interesting to look at the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, the great Indian sage, well known for his Who Am I self inquiry, in terms of how he speaks of reality, our deepest nature, as the heart, using a capital H. And Ramana was very clear in pointing to the heart as the very center of our being, or pure consciousness, and not certainly not the physical heart, but also not kind of the chakra, the energetic heart, or the emotional heart. And he said the heart, with a capital H, is neither inside nor outside of the body, which is a very interesting formulation. So where is it, right? Not inside, not outside, you know. In other words, it's not in time and space, but prior. It's within everything and not bound by anything. And so, while we've been exploring the heart area and will continue to do so, really the whole body is an expression of the heart with a capital H. And the heart area physically is probably the easiest access portal to the great heart, heart with a capital H. We can bring attention down and then follow a number of cues inwardly. And for Ramana, one of the cues was to follow the sense of the I, like to ask, "Who am I?" and get the feel for being, for the I am in the heart area, and then follow it in to its source. And we explored that a little bit in a prior meeting, maybe the first meeting with one of the retreatants. So that's a classic and actually very beautiful form of meditative inquiry, to follow the sense of I am back in to its source. And what happens is there's a falling away and opening up from a more localized sense of identity to non-local, to simply being consciousness, being openness, feeling ourselves as infinite. So what's interesting in I mention all this as a kind of frame, because even though the heart area is a very accessible portal for accessing being and ultimately intimacy with all of life, um, all of our experiences are portals. And the body is an extremely sensitive instrument, not just the heart area. So as we unhook ourselves from our stories and images of lack and flaw and unsafety, the body mind responds. Like the mind tends to get quieter and more efficient and functional, and the body becomes more relaxed. We're not holding the grip, of having to prove or disprove something to ourselves or anyone else. So there's a core relaxation that begins to happen, a kind of melting. This fist of contraction, holding ourselves up and in and back, hiding and defending, begins to relax. So very often, not only is there a kind of openness in the heart area that we can feel as a warmth and a radiance and as a love, as some of you have in our exchanges, in our dialogue, some sense of like something opening and softening and relaxing, right, in the heart area. This happens throughout the whole body, and other areas of tension as well. And in the core of the body, there's a relaxation that happens, an unwinding of tension. So this is what I've noticed the body, as it's no longer under the influence of the conditioned mind and our conscious and subconscious beliefs, begins to orient around our true nature and is responsive to it as we attune to it. So in other words, we have a sense of our inner knowing. And those of you who've read my book, In Touch, are familiar with this, um, what I'm talking about. And I mention it simply as a way to help us trust this process of awakening and unfolding, to know that the body participates in it and validates when we're honing in on the truth. So the heart begins to awaken. We begin to feel depths of our heart. Uh, Sometimes painful, sometimes disorienting, but eventually much more open. And similarly, as we're released more from our stories and images and the reactive feelings that are connected with them, the body is freer and freer. We feel a relaxation in the core. And we also feel ourselves more spacious. We're not so kind of tightly trapped inside the body. The body feels more alive, more fluid and fluent, more interconnected, and more spacious. We begin to feel ourselves as space. Space inside the body, space outside the body begins to feel more like the same space, which in fact it is. So here's the kind of paradox, and all paradoxes are just for the mind, is that even as we feel more open and fluid, we also feel more grounded, more here, more connected. There's a there's a sense of solidity, not heaviness, not really density, but solidity and stability that also emerges. We feel more grounded, more here. So the truth and our true nature is actually very grounding. And the further away from it we get, the more ungrounded we feel. The closer to it we get, the more grounded we experience ourselves. But what is it we're grounding in? We're actually grounding in being. which is why the ground of being is often referred to. Truth is inherently grounding. It can be disorienting initially when we're out of accord with it, but ultimately deeply grounding and deeply liberating. It's that sense of freedom, of space, of lightness as well. So we have a growing felt sense of presence. The felt sense is a kind of pre-verbal whole body sense of something, a pre-verbal whole body sense of something. And in this case, it's the sense of our true nature. So as we deepen into the heart, which is non-locatable, neither inside nor outside of the body responds. The body is grateful in a funny kind of way. You know, it's grateful to be released from illusion and to orient to reality. So because this retreat is about intimacy, it's really important to include our bodies in this. A lot of contemplative spirituality that comes out of the East tends to overlook the body. And that's an interesting word, isn't it? Overlook, like looking over, you know, kind of looking beyond the dense conditioned body to the infinite. But uh, ultimately, we have to realize this through our bodies, through the heart. If there's going to be a real intimacy. So maybe that's enough for now. You know, I'm planting seeds here, but let's open it up. Let's open it up to the conversation and the dialogue about this or anything else that's come up. You know, I've been touching a lot of very deep themes in terms of questioning our core stories, sensing deeply into the heart, and encountering our vulnerabilities and the sense of being supported and held by something greater. Um, Exploring the nature of the body as well. So all of these are fine to explore together.